I don't think I can
All
do
right,
that.
we are now live. Hi, everybody. I'm Catie Harris, and CEO and owner of Nursepreneurs, and I have with me Jill Weberding, who
Hello.
is going to be our co-host for Inner Game. So we are really excited to be here, and what we want to do is talk about just some issues, because one of the things that I always say is that business, about 90% of your business problems are personal problems. And those are the things that we want to work through, because until we get through those, the business just can't happen. Jill, you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Jill Weberding, and I've been an oncology nurse for more than, 22 years now. And I've had my own business for about a year and a half. And I 100% agree with Catie that I would probably even say more. I think it's more like 97.3. I think 97% of
97 point.
the issues that you have starting a business is related to inner game.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to be hosting with you, co-hosting with you.
All right. So, Jill, I was telling you, we were talking about this before, just offline. I get a lot of emails. Nurses will send me emails and give me reasons why they can't start a business. I have one email here in particular that I want to talk about, and maybe you can give us some thoughts and insights on this.
Sure, let's
All
do
right.
it.
I'm really jealous of your camera. I'm going to get my camera out or the lighting's going to get fixed on this. All right. So the email says, the most exciting thing about starting my own business is the ability to work for myself, creating my own schedule that works for me. I don't really work from home. Like some people don't want to work from home.
That's true.
Um, it's true. So I like getting out there. I love people. Income expectations to me are the ability to survive. That's always a good income expectation, and to take vacations. I like this person.
Okay,
Survive and take
speaking my
vacations.
language.
Yeah,
Let's find
I'd
a
love
beach
to bring
somewhere.
I'd love to bring home $10,000 every month, and that way I can get my student loans paid, work on getting my house paid off. At the rate I'm going, I will work until the day I die. I love nursing. It's the core of who I am. I'm a fixer and a caregiver, and I want to make a difference. But I am, in bold letters, I am terrified of being a complete failure. All right. So there's a lot to this email that we need to talk about.
So many things inside there, those few sentences. Yes. I would venture to guess that a huge portion of our listeners are or watchers are like identifying with this email. Like they want to do something, they don't know exactly what it is. And so when you have an idea, like you're immediately into some direction. I think that's a little bit easier. When you really don't have like know what your thing is or what you want to do, sometimes you do have to start like by what you don't want to do, which I think is, helpful that she immediately, laid a couple of those things out.
Yeah. And I did talk to this person on the phone, and, she just has this entrepreneurial itch. She wants to do something, and she has this myriad of experience. Like, I don't remember what it was exactly, but it's a common theme that I see in nursing. Oh, I
Mm.
worked in OB and pain management and ED and home care and has multiple certificates, has multiple degrees, and yet still doesn't have like an expertise per se.
Yes. So like you've been a player in, multiple rings, right? And so the question is, well, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do that. You don't maybe have an overlying like strong passion that you or focus that you want to do. But like for her, that like you said, it sounds like it's definitely that she just wants something of her own. So, like you can start by weeding out like the fact that you don't want to work from home. That takes a huge, like, that's a big divider, right? In the business and what you're going to create. Because, that takes some, things right out of the arena. No CMS, like abstracting case management, that type of stuff. She wants to be out there with people. For someone who said they did absolutely want to work at home, or they, really wanted to control their schedule, or they want to be able to travel, concierge nursing, probably not the right fit for you. So sometimes you like that's at least a starting point to say what you don't want, and then you start moving into the direction, okay, well, what also fits in some of the things, what's checking the boxes that I do want.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the one thing that when one of my mentors had asked me this, and when I now ask nurses the same question, it kind of takes you off guard. And it really is, what is it that you actually want? And a lot of times we'll say we want more money, but more money for what? And
To do what?
we've had this conversation. Yeah, Jill and I've said, what I really want is to sit on my deck, read a book, and drink a glass of wine. So how much money do I really need to do
Not that
this?
much.
Like, yeah, I don't need that much money. So, what is it? It's not money that drives me in my business. There's other things that drive me in my business. And I think that you have to be very clear about what those things are. And we recently had just put out, we're looking for media buyers in Nursepreneurs, and we'd sent this out, looking for people to join. And one of the things that I'd said was that I had bought this book on media buying, and as I'm reading it, I'm just like, oh my God, I hate media buying. Absolutely
Yes.
hate it. Like, I'm not detailed oriented. I don't like all this tagging crap and the pixels and this and this and this. But it was like a really important course for me to find out the things about myself that I guess I knew but didn't really think about. And I think that's like the best place to start, like making those kind of list of what do I like to do? What do I really hate to do? And what would maybe you could potentially outsource parts of that, but I think it's a really important thing to understand about yourself.
Totally agree. Like you have to know the things. And what happens is if you have, I have some of those, issues too, where like there's just a piece of it that I absolutely hate, like on the business side, like learning sales funnels and learning, like I don't, the email campaign, I didn't want to do that. Like even if I like tried to do it, it's absolute painstaking drudge work. And it's a huge time suck because I'm not really excited about it. And it's so much harder to learn when you're not really invested. And that is a much better use of your time and resources, because time is your biggest resource, is to actually, outsource that to someone that is their forte. They know it like the back of their hand. They're going to get it done much quicker than it will take you to figure it out and, try to piece it together and then have all these issues and still like be, fumbling around when you could be in your zone of genius and like rocking it out, like you're going to be so much more productive and happier, more fulfilled, driven to do all those things that you really love doing, and just outsource some of those pieces that, I think it's good to have a general understanding. Like you said, you read the book, but it's very clear, like, oh, like as soon as I'm handing this off as soon as I possibly can.
Yeah, no, I tried to do my own tagging, and I even downloaded a few things, and I'm like, oh, this is not happening.
Yeah.
I just hate.
And so
Um,
instead of trying to force yourself to do that, like instead of trying to force yourself, it's like forcing a square peg in a round hole. Like why not just stay in your zone of genius and, pull in some people, whether that's, just like an outsourced single job or, part-time or very part-time, to do a couple of those pieces to get you going, as opposed to using that. A lot of times we use that as a procrastination tool. Well, I don't really know this. I need to go learn this, right?
yeah,
You're like, you're not getting anywhere. Well, it's because of this one thing that I hate that I can't seem to get. Well, outsource it. You'll be moving.
yeah. No, I've had nurses get hung up on their business name, and you come back like 2 months later, and I'm like, and the nurse
What's
is like, oh,
happening?
I can't think of a business name, and I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna move on. You had this problem, didn't you?
Oh my gosh. I was stuck here for so freaking long. Like, why?
Actually,
And here's the thing. Again, the reality is it had nothing to do with the name. It was a procrastination tool, right? Like we're using that as indecision a lot of times as a procrastination tool, whether like recognize it on the surface. Like if you really sit in the silence and realize, like, what is it? Why is it that I can't come up with something that I just really love, or that like, it's not important. You're focusing on the wrong details. And I was focusing on that because that was easier than what I actually needed to focus on, which was the solution and my offer and putting myself out there and what am I going to do versus what I'm going to call that. Right. So, I think we use it a lot of times as a little defense mechanism to procrastinate.
yeah, no, definitely. So in this case, with this nurse in particular, so she doesn't want to work from home, and like you said, that knowing the things that you don't want, I think is just as important as knowing the things that you do want. So I guess what would be some ways to kind of like figure out what it is, what her zone of genius is, and what she could do, and how could we put like a business together for her.
Yeah. So I do a smaller piece of this in my 5-figure course creator. Like we do a little like an inspiration center brainstorming sheet. And so it's like looking at what are your skills and experience? What are you really good at? And most importantly, what are people already coming to you for? Like, what are you known for? What are you the go-to person for? Because a lot of people don't recognize that. They're like, oh yes, I'm always the mentor. I'm always this. People are always coming to me for this. And it may not just be in your workspace. It might be like your whole network, your circle of friends, your family members. If there's something that they're always coming to you for, that's important to recognize. And then it's like, what is it that really what I call set your soul on fire? Like, you don't want to be meh about something from your business idea from the beginning, because you just won't have enough energy to like see it through. It will feel like drudge work. You're just not going to want, to finish. It's just going to be, you either will quit, partway through because you're not really lit up about it. You really need that passion to drive you, because it is a long game. It's not a sprint by any means. It's a long game. So if you're going to be in it for the long game, it needs to be something that you absolutely love, set your soul on fire, and that you're lit up about. So that's where I start with people, with nurses that I work with, is like, let's at least get a feel for, what you're good at, what you're known for, what people come to you for, and what really sets you on fire, and try to find that sweet spot potential that's kind of a little trifecta of those things.
Yeah, because I think a lot of nurses will just kind of not really entertain some things that could actually be a business model. And I think this is where, we help them a lot, because they'll come to me with this expertise and I see a business model and they're like, but I don't understand how that gets monetized. And that's something that, we work on, because when I first started this, my whole thing was I want to start a blog and then I'm going to monetize it. Then I was like, well, I don't understand how you monetize a blog. And that doesn't mean that it's not a business model. It just means that I can't see it. I don't have that vision. And that's what we can help the nurses to do, is to take that expertise and then wrap a business model around it. And when they don't entertain the things that they're really good at, like this student in particular being very outgoing. When I talked to her on the phone, I was like, let's talk about doing like sales, media, like all these things that she would interact with. And now I have her, I have her set up to be doing a course later this year. So, I mean, she went from terrified to, running her own course later this year. So,
they don't realize, a lot of this, like we see a lot of this, right, Catie, that they don't realize that they could actually get paid for one of these things on their list. Like, oh, I'm really good at this and I really love that. But I mean, I've been giving that away for free for years. Like, obviously that's not a business because I give it away all the time. Like, no, you could be getting paid for that. In fact, you should be, and let's build a model so that you can and do the thing, that you actually really love doing, serving more people, serving the people that you want. And by the way, get valued for doing it. Let's do that.
Yeah. And that actually reminds me of another nurse that I had met, and she was a nurse practitioner, and she was doing all of this stuff for her community for free. And she's like, the problem is that they won't pay me, so I keep doing these things for free. And I said, that's not a business problem. That's a personal problem.
Yeah.
Like, people will pay for your services. You just have to stop. You have to make the decision. Right. Yeah. So you've made the decision that you owe it to your community to give them these free services at your expense. That's a personal issue. And that's great if that's what you want to do, but don't say that nobody wants my business, because that's not true. It's a personal issue that you have to make a decision. Maybe you just do part of your time for free for your community, but if you want the business to succeed, you actually have to go out. You got to follow the money. You got to follow the trail of money. And, it's not in where people are taking things from you for free.
Yeah, you have to, no one's going to value your value until you do, right? Until you say that my time is worth this, my expertise is worth, is valuable, and they know it, or they wouldn't be asking you to come speak or come do this program, or can you help us out with this? They obviously feel that you're valuable to their audience, and they want you for a reason. Maybe it's because you're an incredible speaker and you're super engaging, and you speak in a way that the audience really resonates with. That's valuable. Not everybody has that gift. No, not everybody is able to break down complex, topics to understandable, bite-sized, digestible chunks. That's a gift. That's
hard.
valuable, right? So, you have to start from a place of that you're valuing your expertise and your knowledge and what you are able to provide. And then, then you have the sustainability. What you have to have customers in order to be sustainable. So you can't give it all away for free, but just because you charge doesn't mean you still don't have those opportunities to, hey, I'll do a program here and I'll do a program there, but it's not every single program. You have to be sustainable, or like you said, that's not a business model. That's a charity. That's a hobby.
Right. And that's not to say that there's still not a model. There's still somebody that might pay you to do those things for free, but then, your audience changes, and it's just, that just gets more convoluted. But yeah, no, so I see this, this kind of fear of failure and getting started. And these are topics that we're going to be talking about over the next several weeks, or just things that the nurses come and talk to us about. And in her email, this nurse had said that she was terrified of being a failure. And briefly, like, what do you think of that?
I think we need to dedicate an entire episode
I
to just
agree.
fear of failure. It is so huge with nurses in particular starting out in business. But the short answer to that is, if you're not failing probably about 40% of the time, then you're not growing. Like, you're not taking enough risk. You're not trying enough things, because it just comes with the territory. And so part of it is a reframing of failure, what failure is versus growth versus iteration versus, work in progress. And so that's generally how when I'm working with nurses, I really try to ingrain that, is work in progress, work in progress, work in progress. That's what it all is. It's a shaping, and so if you see any business, they are not what they are now as what they were on day one. Like, it's been an iteration all the time. And so when you get the newest, Google phone, they don't wait till it's perfect to put it out there. They get it out. And 3 days after you get it, you get a notification that there's an update. Like, what?
Yeah.
I just bought it. It's brand new. Oh, because there were some bugs and they worked them out. And so now update it. And here's the next version. It's the same thing with our products, our programs, our courses, whatever it is that you're doing. Just start somewhere. You just have to start somewhere, and then it's going to shape it and progress it. And you're going to learn so much in the beginning stages that, again, where you start out, it's not going to be where you end, but you've got to get started.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of that too is if the nurses just kind of focus their attention and their energy on what the problem is and what people need, and then less of that energy is focused on themselves, it takes all that weight off of, you have to come up with the business. People will actually tell you what kind of business they want and need, and then all you have to do is supply the solution, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to approach it.
That's it. You just pay attention. They'll tell you what they need. So you can start out by saying well, who do I want to work with? Or she knows she doesn't want to work at home. Okay, well, what kind of businesses would I be able to get out and still be amongst people and still use my incredible nursing, all my wide nursing experience and all these things. You just start going, and then you say, okay, well, what are some of the problems in those areas? And you start listening. Just pay attention, do some research, and they will tell you what they want, right? It's usually not what you think they need. But they'll tell you what they want. And then you can say, hey, does that fall into my zone of genius? If it does, let me start working on that problem. So yeah, it's so not about you. It's just, it's not, honey, it's not about you. That's, in other words, sometimes I come off a little abrupt. I'm going to give you a loving kick in the pants. And I'm going to tell you that, it's just not about you. It's really about who you're serving. You just,
Yeah. So, what I would say, especially with like somebody that wants to be out there with people and not at home, like the things that, like I said, that come to mind are event planning, media, PR stuff, like all this, the connecting people. I know a nurse who was like if I needed, she was a super connector. If I wanted a plumber, if I needed a roofer, if I needed, childcare, whatever it was that I needed, that I just went to Jessica because Jessica knew everybody and everything, in my area. It was just like, that was the type of person she was. And I always tried to get her to start a business around that, and she couldn't wrap her mind around how being a super connector could be a
Oh my God.
business. And I was just like, oh my God, you're joking, right?
Right? Like that screams staffing agency to me. Like what? Like like there's so many models that you could take that skill and that gift and ability in. My gosh, but like, think about staffing agency, even like you could be the person who is out, like getting to let the word out, like that you have a staffing agency, you're recruiting, nurses to work in your, agency and getting all their, expertise in there. And then you're connecting constantly. It's just about supply and demand and connecting. Hey, do you have a need? I've got somebody who can help you. I've got the perfect person. Like that's all PR, marketing, sales. You can call it what you want, but it's really just connection. That's what it is, right?
Right. And then it's about, so you don't want to just go out and say, okay, well, I have an events planning company, because now you're competing against a million other event planning companies that are out there. And I think that's where people are like, oh, but like I'll be 1,000,001 event planning company, right? Maybe that's even your business name or something. But yeah, so I mean, then the key there is to differentiate and find an audience that uses event planning. So like, do nursing agencies use event planning? Of course they do. Like, do nursing businesses, do they want event planning? What kind of events are there? Actually, I just spoke to a nurse who I was like, you should do like these virtual summit events. She loves event planning. I'm like, why don't you do virtual summits? Yeah, and conferences. Like,
Oh my
you could
gosh.
do these for, I mean, it's crazy all that. Like, so when you start niching down and thinking about it and, honing in on a particular audience that you're familiar with and you have contacts with, because business is really about who you know or who you're willing to get to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who you know or who you're going to know. If you don't already have those connections, you have to be willing to make them and expand your circle and, and get them. Put yourself out there. But yeah, like, immediately I was thinking about, conferences. I'm like, oh, that would be a fun job. Maybe I should do that.
No.
Let's do that. No, I mean, that's, again, we talk about this in our course creator, because there is like 1,000,001, online courses right now. Of course, it's booming, with, restrictions and education and travel and conferences all going virtual. Like there's such a huge boom for, but that's it. It doesn't matter if 10 people create the same course in theory, like the same topic. It's not going to be the same because you are not the same. It's not your perspective. It's not your experience. They don't have your background. They're not going to connect. Someone might connect with me, as opposed to someone else, or vice versa. They won't connect with me, but they'll connect with Nurse Catie. So like that's not what you have to worry about. Don't worry about the competition. Worry about figuring out who you are, what your zone of genius is, and then you just start running. Like you just go for it, right? Because it's not about you, honey. It's about who you're serving.
Maybe that's your next course. It's not about you.
It's not about you, honey. Yeah.
No, so I think those are really, really important points. All right, Jill, so maybe we should just kind of sum this up, and we're going to have this as a weekly call that we do, and if you guys have questions, you can certainly type them in, and we'll be happy to answer any questions, or if you want to send either one of us emails, if you want to send me an email, actually I put my email in the post. You can send us your questions, or if you want us to talk about a particular topic, I think that would be great as well.
Yeah, that would be fun. So for me, if we started out again, summarize like from the place of indecision, you've got an entrepreneurial itch, you don't know what it is, you have a wide range of nursing experience. If you really don't know decide what kind of lifestyle, what it is that you do want, fill as many of those factors in as you can, and then also list if there's something specific that absolutely is a no-go for you. If there's something that is a total hang up, roadblock, not going to do it, don't want to stay, don't want to work from home, list that on there, because that will start narrowing, the range of what you're looking for. And then really, sit down, take the time. It doesn't take a ton of time, but take a little bit of time and just work on, map out your what it is you really set your soul on fire. What is it that people come to you for all the time, that you're already doing those free programs for, that you're already doing those projects at work for, all those things, whether it's at work or in your personal network. And then what is it that you really are good at, that you really, that you just naturally comes easy? Is it speaking? Is it, putting frameworks around things? What is it? Like, list all those things and let's look for, that little sweet spot potential.
Yeah, that's what we did with Juanita. She came to me and she wanted to be a health coach, but she was really kind of like down about it. She was just like, yeah, I want to be a coach. And I was like, okay.
Something's not matching. And that's it. Like, sometimes what we think, I have found this for sure. What you think, sometimes what you think coming into it, once you actually put it down on paper, it doesn't match. Like, right? It doesn't add up. You're like, well, I say I want to do this, but I really hate this. And I'm like, well, that's a critical piece of that. So that may not be the best avenue for you to go down. Let's think about, what are the parts of that you think you really like, and is there another area that you can use those skills and
Right. Yeah. And so when we started, one of the things that had come up with Juanita was, somebody had some tech questions, and I was like, I don't really know the answer to this. And she like lit up, like it was ridiculous. She was so excited and animated, and I was like, Juanita, why don't you just do that? Yeah. Yeah. And so now that's what she's doing. She's systems RN, and yeah, she's very busy and loves what she does and is just in her zone of genius. Like that's what she loved doing. And I was like, and I've spent more money on Juanita than she ever spent working with me. Like it was just ridiculous how much money I've spent in her business. So
like, that's it. It's the part that you don't like and you don't enjoy, you don't want to do. And like, why not, outsource that piece, because it still it's saving you resources versus you trying to, make yourself drudge through that work.
Right. Absolutely. All right, everybody.
All right, great.
Again, if you have questions, please send them to support@catieharris.com. Let us know. Send me emails. I love your emails. We'll read your emails and talk about various issues that nurses come up against, or just those mindset challenges. It's a journey. It's a journey out there.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's a good one.
It's so worth it. Like, and it will not only open up your professional life, it will open up your personal life as well.
Absolutely.
It's a game changer.
Yep. All right, everybody.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Next week.
All right. Thanks, Catie.